Thank you very much. And let me first thank all the people who are watching. We had maybe, I don't know, on 130, 140 questions. I see that you really want to answer them all. We'll see. We are already into the break, but we really have to use this opportunity to answer. I would like to first emphasize that we keep all these questions. So if your questions from the first lecture have been put to dismiss, they are not dismissed. We are actually collecting them all. We come back to certain ones in the Q&A at the end, but we will definitely put them on the Mighty Networks to be able to discuss them. I have been to some conferences, a few, but I've never seen, 150 questions in 1.5 hours. So I hope that you appreciate that we can not possibly answer even a very small fraction of it, but Ilektra has actually looked into the questions. I saw that she has already chosen some of them to answer. Ilektra, do you want to actually choose one yourself, or shall I choose from what our panel has selected?
They are really dual questions. They make me so excited because it's like music to my ears to have all this interaction with the content we have been also be questioning a lot. So yes, like lovely questions, and I wish we could discuss for hours. I like the one about the distributed ownership. Do you have it easy, or just pick one of those we have said?
Well, maybe you can start with the one that we talked. You also saw first. How are interests of women and homemakers factored in the concept of thriving city? It's also to the issue of care.
There was this question that came early on. Somebody asked how we include women or homemakers in this concept of thriving cities. So if you have seen when I presented the doughnut model, in the social foundation of the model, you can see the theme of housing and the theme of gender equality. These are two of the main sustainable development goals that belong to the doughnut. So when we were creating the thriving city, the city portrait, all the topics related to housing, related to women, gender equality would belong to the social foundation either in the local social by looking at these topics in Amsterdam, or in the global social by looking at how Amsterdam is impacting women and labor related to women in other parts of the world through the consumption of products. I hope this clarifies a bit. That was a simple one. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So there's another question. I think this is the one you mentioned, that the city of Amsterdam is an interesting case. It just passed. Yeah, it's also a very touristic place. And how are you planning to incorporate the tourists to the circular strategy? They usually consume and travel more than a normal citizen.
Yeah, I mean, this is a whole vision to see how you can incorporate tourism and how you can stay open in this global local model. There are a lot that can be done with tourism, and now I'm just speaking out loud. But when a city is designed in a way that the consumption that takes place within the boundaries of the city is well thought, or where the city provides an infrastructure and a system where when somebody comes to visit, will use ethically and locally sourced products or food, or will have access to services that are also very much cautious about the amount of waste that is being generated through the use of everyday single-use products. All this obviously will create a very different experience of tourism, I would say. That's a brief one that I could give for
but
this.
Maybe I can connect to that. There's a connected question, is that because of this tourism, there are also structural challenges. For example, mass tourism, speculation, and real estate. Could you also address these things? Like we have Airbnb, that's many houses are not available for rent anymore. Mm-hmm. This is also in a structural issue. And
yeah, I mean, so
how are we going to incorporate it into the doughnut?
I need to go one step backwards. These are very specific questions in specific small parts of the system. When we are working with the doughnut and the city of Amsterdam, the whole idea is to create this holistic view so you can have the big picture. So when you look at how you're going to create a new housing strategy or a new construction development strategy, you should be taking into account all these other counter elements and dynamics. So how are you going to make sure that with the new developments, you are ensuring that you have also enough housing for all the different incomes, or you are also taking into account that you're not you are leaving enough spatial regions for food, or so it's like the answer sits on the balance. We can take days to solve each of those topics, and it's the responsibility of the City of Amsterdam to really address each of them in time. What we provide is like a frame for constantly finding the balance between those dynamics and synergies, so that you can always be aware that when I'm creating a path for this vision in this area of Amsterdam, at the same time I'm impacting these other themes, these other areas, and beyond the city.
There was a question also, I think I have to make it the last one because we are really cutting into the break. And the question was that, have you used a system of indicators to monitor the status with respect to donors? And is there a database for these indicators that you can share?
Yeah, so there were some questions related to indicators, and I will answer, I think, two of them. One is that this portrait, what we see, the city donut of Amsterdam, is a mix of qualitative and quantitative indicators, depending on the lens. Some of them are really calculated, so we have really downscaled the consumption, the impact of Amsterdam on the planet through the consumption of products that happen through the residents. So there we have really taken a quantitative approach. Some of them are more qualitative. Then there was this other question: how can we measure the progress? Which is going to be the baseline. So the idea is, when you create the city portrait, you can use this as the current state. So you can see where we are right now. Now the challenge is to define the right indicators to keep on monitoring how we are moving towards progressing and staying and moving within the two circles of the donut. So the city is developing their own monitoring dashboard, where they are going to be including also indicators from the city portrait that they can now formally, let's say, include their assessment. And there is also a conversation to bring that to a regional level, so that they can monitor the progress. All this is just the beginning for this. And the last with indicators is that there is not a single database that we can point you towards where you can see this is a list of indicators, because these portraits are being made in collaboration with the city. So we combine what the city is measuring and what makes sense. So it's tailored every time. And it's a practice to find what are the right things to measure for every city. What do we measure when we want to measure thriving?
Okay. Thank you very much, Ilektra. In the view of time, I have to stop asking you more questions here. Please stay with us until the end of the program and join us on the panel at the end. Again, some of these questions we can bring up to the last session. But for now, I just thank you again for your lecture and for answering all these questions. Thank you very much. And thank you all the people who are watching and staying with us for asking all these questions. We would like to go into the break. We have already cut a bit into it.